Alright guys, welcome to part 2 where we're going to start adding material to our gummy bear. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a box to scale down our gummy bear to 2 inches. Okay, even know that a gummy bear is pretty much a ½ inch or so in real world scale. But what we're going to do here for physics sakes, we're going to put it about 2 inches. Okay, I'll center this guy to the grid. And then I'm going to just delete our box. Okay, and make sure this guy kind of sits in the Z here in the flat of the of our grid here, just on the edge. And now we can start to bring our material editor in, and we'll add a Vray material. From there, we'll drag them on, and we'll just call this gummy bear. Okay, and this is going to be, we're going to go with the red color. So I'll just get a nice red diffuse. But before I do that, I'm going to go into the Vray Fast SSS 2 material. And we'll now work with this guy. So if we hit render, this is what we have here in default lighting. So that's looking quite nice. Okay, and what we're going to have to do next is we're going to have to come in and add a Vray dome light. So go to Vray light, come here down to the drop down, hit dome and just drag it out to our viewport. Come down to options, invisible, and then from now I think this will work. We'll just make sure it's full dome. Okay. So the lighting comes in. I'm using just a simple Studio HDR. You can use your favorite HDR for this. So I'm going to do the resolution up to 2048. And now if you look, we have our HDRI applied after we just dragged it into the Use Texture slot. So I'll just cancel that. We're going to come over to Render Setup. And we're going to set up an active shade, or Vray RT. So when we're doing the materials, we can see this in real time. Okay, and that's working quite nicely. It's going to take the error messages off, or warning sign, or warning messages, that is. And I think we're pretty much ready to go. We're just going to have to, it's going to change some of the turbo smooth settings, so they work out okay here. Maybe Vray bundle size 164, 16 on the trace depth, and should get enough here. Okay, and then also I'm going to put the value of our dome light to 3, and then just bring up our HDR to 1.5 in the overall value or intensity of the light. Okay, so now we're going to split our window in half here. We're going to have the active shade to the right, and you can see how bright the image looks right now. That's okay. And you can see now the subsurface scattering is working in our RT window, which is great. Now that Vray has put this in, and it's working quite nicely now from previous versions. All right, so I'm going to use the ketchup preset. Okay, that gives us a good start. And you can see right now we pretty much got the ketchup look. We're going to change the scale size down to about 5, or sorry, up to 5, and that's going to give us, you can see already it's really affected the image here in the right. Just going to get rid of this region here. So if we change our value to about 100, you can see that everything just gets so dark. So scale is very important for the SSS to work properly, so keep that in mind. If I go to 0.1, you can see how very milky it looks. So 5 seems to be good, and then our IRR, I'm going to put it to 156 for now. And now I'm going to just get our diffuse color here in our subsurface scattering layers. We're going to change that to a nice bright red, and I'm just going to select over in my other window here. I got some selections that I like for the color of the subsurface color, and now our scatter color as well we'll have to change. But you can see how much our subsurface color has really affected our material. Okay. Okay, so we'll just change this back to the red. We'll change our scatter radius to 5 and making sure that this is all working. You can see there's a little bit of backlight there. Okay, so it's going to go into our phase function. We'll change that to 0.8. Okay, make it a little bit more of a paler red. We'll just kind of bring up the value here. Same with the scatter radius and our diffuse. I'll just bring that value up a slight bit as well. So far everything's working pretty good. Our specular layer, the color, we're just going to make it more of a pinkish tone, and that should work. Or maybe just bring it up a bit more here. We'll come over to our, let's see. Okay, so what we got to now do is go to our, we have an options panel here, and we're going to change our single scatter to ray traced refractive, and that's where everything starts to come together. And you can see the lights coming through the gummy bear now, and everything is starting to look legit. As you can see now, I can change our scatter color, and you'll see the back is working here of the gummy bear. You can see the lights coming through there. And then our subsurface scatter color again is our, if we do it with blue, you can see the front half of the bear is being affected. Okay, so I'm sure if we move this around, everything would change and distort depending on your, so it's your IOR that's creating the distortion inside the bear. Okay, so that works really nice, but the other thing that we are missing here is we need a bump map. So we're going to come down to our maps panel. We'll open up our maps tab and come down to noise. And from there, we're just going to have to see what's going on. So we can't see it right now because probably the size is too big. I think it affected it a little bit, but if I bring this down to 1, you can start to see we got some noise there, and that's working. I'll change the noise type to fractal. We'll change our high value to 0.75, okay, and just to see what's happening here so you can understand, we will we'll just bring up this map here, and we're just going to add a little bit more contrast to our noise, okay, and that's just all we're doing here. So by changing the high value and the low value, you can see what happened here is we've now created a nice darkened or contrast noise map that we can use. We'll change the size to 0.2, and now we give a look of what it looks like on the bear. If we zoom in here a bit, you can already see that you can see the little crevices through the as this starts to sharpen up, you can start to see it through the bear a little bit here. Well, the problem is we need to just tone it down because it's a little bit too harsh on the material. So by default it's usually 30. We're going to change this to 10, and that should soften up our noise just enough to give us a little bit of texture on the surface, and it also really helps for getting that kind of bubble that goes inside the gummy bear that really looks cool as these guys are in different positions when you go to render. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That sums up adding the material to the gummy bear. So we're going to add a few more colors. We're not going to do that on screen, but we're going to add a green, an orange, and a clear gummy bear, and then that's where we're going to start getting these guys, make them use of some physics to try to kind of drop them into place and then get a nice rendered image. Okay, so if I render this guy out, just going to do a quick progressive render here, and we take a look to see our results. Sorry, I'm just going to get a little bit higher res of image here, and we'll pause, and if we have a look, you can see we got a nice bump map going through the bear. The light's coming through really nicely. It looks very jelly-like, and I believe that will be it. And let's get into the next part where we're going to position our camera and drop some more gummy bears into the shot and do some randomizing color. Okay guys, I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, so now that we're back, we've added some colors to our bear. So we got the orange, we got the whitish clear version here. It's pretty much more white. our green bear and our original red bear. Okay, so we're going to, I'm just going to show you a quick change that I had to make to some of them. The white, I had to change the phase function, and I switched it over to, what else here? Hold on a minute. Actually, I didn't switch it to anything here. I think that's another one. I switched it over to the orange. Because when you have oranges all together throughout, you start to get this kind of like a blue hints in where the scatter effect starts to happen. You start getting this blue coming through. So I had to change that up a little bit. So this one here has a 5 color instead. And this seems to work quite nice with the bear and or with the material. And this should be good. And then our white bear is looking pretty good as well. So we have these colors, and we're going to use them in just a moment. But we're going to start off with the red bear. I was just showing you our variations and the colors that we're going with. So I'm actually going to delete these guys out. I'm going to hide this guy. Okay, I'm just going to center. Okay, so now we're going to start to add our physics into the scene, and we're going to get these gummy bears laid out so that we can get a nice rendered still. So what I'm going to do here is I have our bear, which is just going to be the standard red color for now that we've worked with. A couple changes that I have done with the materials is make sure that your overall color is the main color of your material, and also your diffuse color. Right now we have 0 on the amount of it. I'm just using it as a red for reference. But other than that, you want to make sure that your overall color is in a nice tone like that we have here, and pretty much these settings all remain the same. With the subsurface color, just making sure you can play with these two. The subsurface color and scatter color, play with those guys to get different results and how the translucency and the subsurface scatter effect works with these guys. Okay, so just experiment with that, and you can come up with some pretty nice results. So let's start to duplicate some of our bear here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just rotate this guy a little bit this way. I'll hold shift, drag out, and we'll angle the second bear this way here, and then we can now grab both of these guys, hold shift, and we're going to make about 90 copies. Okay, it's a lot of them. So what we can do is grab them all. I'm going to move them up. Might be a little too much of a fall here, so I'm just going to bring them down a bit. We're going to select them all, and we're going to come over to our animations tab, and we're going to go to massfx, rigid body, set selected as dynamic rigid body. Once we have that selected, we will add a rigid body to each of them. Okay, so what we see here is this little kind of outer shell. That's pretty much where the contact's going to take place. What I want to do here is I could go to a custom shape, but not going to do that for this. I'm going to use a convex shape type, but what I want to do is just bring our inflation down to -3 or so. Okay, just so we have a little bit of closer contact when these guys meet each other here. And that's pretty much it. But actually, I don't know if I did that to everybody, so let's make sure I grab them all. Actually, I'm going to have to do that in the animation tab, massfx, utilities, show massfx tools. Come over to the material tab, okay, or this is where the our material is that we're going to replicate. And our inflammation, we can put that down to -3 here. Okay, that's going to control everybody. Okay, so pretty much everything is set up here. But if we go to rubber, nothing's really changed. But if we come back to our custom, okay, you can see that everything is pretty much set up for us here. I just kind of do a little bit of changes here. Our static, we don't really need a lot of that. Actually, that needs to be, we want a lot of static friction. We want them to kind of stick with each other. We don't want them to slide off. Dynamic friction, put that at 1 as well. Bounciness, don't want a lot of bounciness, so we'll go 0.003 or so. Okay, these are just rough numbers. Okay, I'm going to try the mass, but 1.5. There's just a light. There's nothing really too heavy of an object. So what I can do now is I can start the simulation, see a preview of how these guys are going to react. Okay, I think this is going to work. So I'm going to actually stop this. We're going to bring them back up, and we're going to bake them all. So we're just going to bake out the animation. I set up 300 frames, okay? And you can do that down here in your timing configurations. You can add more frames if you like. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and wait for this guy to finish. Okay, so now that the animation has stopped, we can now play through and see how everybody reacted here. And pretty much we had some a little bit of strange activity going on here, but that's okay. We're just gonna remove these guys, and we have a nice looking mess of gummy bears here. So this will work really nice for getting some cool angles of the bears. Okay, so once we have this in place, we now have to select one of our bears, because we're gonna create one mesh for this. And you'll see the reason why I'm going to do this in just a moment. So I'm going to select this bear, say here. We'll convert him to an edible poly. Okay, so that pretty much collapses everything. Let's call this guy, let's say gummy bears. Okay, and once we have that in place, we can go to our attach list, go down, and they're all called object. It's probably better to rename them, but once we attach these guys together, it's going to be just the gummy bears. Okay, so that works really nice, and they should be quite flush with the floor. Might have to just bring them up a bit. Okay, but we'll add a floor in just a moment here. So our next step is to now add the turbo smooth back in. Whoops. I hit turn to. So I'm just going to have to give this a minute here. Okay, so we're going to come back and go to. I just had to go through a little process there. We're going to add our turbo smooth. All right, we're going to bring our iterations up to 3 for the render. Okay. And now we're going to have to stop this, and let's delete all our keyframes out of the entire thing. There should be no animation. That's good. And what we're going to do now is we're going to have to get some variation. So in order for us to do that, we're going to have to add a modifier, and it's called material by element. All right, so what we're going to do is come over to our material editor, and we're going to open up and get a new material. As I come down, let's see, here it is, multi-sub object. We're going to click that guy. All right, and then we are going to set our number. We're going to have 4 new colors. Hit OK. And what we're going to do is just take these guys and drag them in. So here's our red, here's our green, here's our orange, and our white. Okay, so we have 4. You can add as many colors as you like. I'm just going to go 4 for this tutorial. And what we need to do now is go to our material by element. We're going to look at ID count. We're going to put that to 4. And then we're going to also want random distribution. So what we're going to do is once we apply our multi sub object shader, our material, Gummy Bear colors, we have a nice random variation of all those materials. Very cool. Very simple technique. It's probably been around for quite some time, but it's really nice for doing candy, kind of anything that would require some random materials. This is a good way to do that. Okay, and you can also change the seed around to get different looks. So it's kind of cool. You can animate that as well. Okay, so we'll just get a nice color variation. That's nice. Okay, a little bit less white. Sure. Let's go with picking an angle. Actually, I don't mind this angle right here. I can actually hit Control C, and that will bring me up a physical camera. Okay, we're not going with the Vray physical camera, but if you're using an older Max, it's fine. Physical camera will work well. Okay, the Vray physical camera, that is. So now that it's implemented in 2016, Vray choose to go with this. So, or Chaos Group. Okay, so let's hit. Let's go to the top view, and let's add a Vray plane. I already have a ground that I've created, or color, so I just went with a darkish gray, a little bit of reflection, nothing too fancy there. And we're going to apply that to the plane. Okay, and let's get a test render going here. So I'm going to go with something very small. Okay, and I'm going to use the HD TV. I'm going to go with a 600 for now, just for testing purposes. Okay, because it is going to be quite hefty of a render because of the subsurface scattering and the amount of calculation. I'm sure there's a lot of techniques you can probably speed this workflow up for the render side of things, but this should do. Okay, so if I hit render now, what do we have? Let's see, what do we get? So right now, I don't see anything happening. Okay, so that's gonna have to find out what our issue is there. And I think I lost my dome light. And I think that's the problem. So we're gonna have to re-bring him back in. That's not a problem. Whoops, we need to get a dome. Okay, there's our dome light. And I wonder if I still have my HDR in here, which I probably don't. So come over down to Vray HDRI. Okay, and let's load one in. Okay, so I just loaded in an HDR, one of my own just custom ones. Okay, it could be any kind of studio or any kind of HDR. I use a studio for the previous render. Okay, and I'm pretty sure I've already showed this in the first part, or when I was working on the materials, but let's just drag this guy back in. There's an instance there. It's 2048. Sampling. We can leave that at 8 for now. And let's go to our options. Invisible. Okay, and we also want to do dome light full. Okay, we're using the full dome. Now let's hit render and see. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing right away is I have to fix my V-Ray plane. Okay, so we want to make sure that the plane is sitting on the bear. Or the bear is sitting on the plane, that is, sorry. Just want to make sure that he's kind of leaning up against that. Okay, that way they're sitting on the floor. Now let's try to render that, because I think it was floating. Didn't look too well. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to let this render through. This is progressive rendering. And then we're going to just kind of see what we're looking at here. But I'm liking the result of what I see just off the pre-pass. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we're back, I've just stopped, or just wanted to play the video out as we are in 5 minutes into the past 30. And I got an older machine. It's not too new, so it's just using the CPU at this moment. But it's not bad. It's still it takes some time to do the progressive at this point, and I don't even know. I wouldn't even use it for the production side of things. I would just do the traditional production for this kind of shot, or for these kinds of materials. But that said, the only adjustments I would make here is maybe dim down the shot, the brightness a little bit of this shot, and the bears, the white bears are a little bit bright, but as you can see, the red ones look really nice. The orange ones have some translucency coming through, and they also they're a little bit milky inside. But you know what? It looks quite nice, and this is pretty much very similar to the one I was working on at the beginning that I showed the picture at the beginning. So this is very, very similar to that, and this will work quite nice. I might want to change the camera angle a bit because I'm seeing a lot. I'm not really getting the faces of the bear. I want to see a little bit more of the faces, but the whole point of this tutorial is to show you how cool you can make these candy photorealistic renders that you can to try to achieve using these kind of material setups and showing you the modeling process. So I like this. I'm going to just do a few more adjustments here, and then we're gonna render out a bigger image and see what we come up with here. So first, I'm just gonna get another angle, maybe something. Let's see here, something that's a little bit more interesting. Got some more gaps in there. This bear sitting up, right? Everyone else is just laying down, and he's just kind of watching everybody. Let's try to find something a little bit more. Something more of a focus. I'm going to keep. I'm going to turn on show safe frame. I'll zoom in a bit here, or just dolly in a bit. Oh, maybe something like this. All right, that'll work. Okay, just can't make my mind up here. All right, let's jump back out, and let's take a look at our camera. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up to a 7. Okay, and that's our exposure. I'm gonna turn on depth of field. So as you can see, once we turn the depth of field on, you can see we get these grids. I'm gonna bring this guy back so we can use our focus distance, custom focus distance, and bring it back somewhere along here. Let's take a look. Okay, so right now we're focusing over here, way in the far back. Okay, so this is making a little more sense, but I need to let's bring down our aperture a bit. I'm going to find something here. So we got use your target distance. So between that, our target's, oh, okay, I see. So our target's over here. And if we want, we can grab our target, pretty much bring it over to here, towards this bear. We want it to focus on this white bear here. There we go. Okay, and that'll work. So you can see the blur effect happening up here at the top. We maybe want it a little bit more aperture, a lower aperture. So if I bring this down to like A4, see what we get there. Okay, so that's nice. Okay. All right, so once we have our camera set up, we can now go to our settings, our render settings. We can change, we're going to go with 720 for now. Progressive, I'm going to go to adaptive. Okay, subdivisions, I'm going to go 6 and 2. Let's say 003 on the color threshold. Okay, I'm just going to, these are rough numbers, I'm just going to try here. Going to up our global subdivisions. Okay, brute force, I'm going to do around 16. Light cache. We're using glossy rays. Try a little bit of 500, 1500. Okay, I'm going to leave that as is. That's okay. I'm going to go with 16 on the bucket size. Okay, we're going to leave the color mapping as is. Sub-pixel mapping and clamping the output, we'll do that as well. And let's hit render. I'm going to pause this video and we'll return, and hopefully we have a nice final image. Alright, so now we are finished with our render, as it took quite a bit of time to render something like this out, but it was well worth it. Everything seemed to be looking good. Our materials and everything are fully nice and lit, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Now, what we could actually do at this point is go in and start doing some post-processing and start editing the image just a tad bit here. We could do that in the window, in the Vray, in our frame buffer here, using Vray, but also you can take it into any other kind of 2D software or any image editing software to continue this process, get rid of some of maybe the noise. And but this is looking good. I'm just going to go in and maybe we'll do a little bit of editing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just come up and bring up our controls for post here, and what we can do is we can lift our exposure just a bit. Okay, we have also color burn. We're not going to really go through all of this, but you can see also we have white balance. We can change this image up to make it a little bit cooler or warmer. The hue and saturation, we can take some of the saturation down a bit if we want, so it's not so much color coming on. Then we have we don't want too much pop. If we want to just kind of bring that down a little bit, we can do that. Don't really want to mess with the lightness, so we'll just leave that at 0. With the color balance as well, we can adjust some of the color balance Let's turn that on first before I start sliding. Okay, you can just move this around. See if you get anything, some greens. You can play with this a little bit. You know, if you want to make it kind of stylized a bit, you can do that. We have some curve. You can add some curve to this guy. Okay, so pretty much that's what this is kind of the result that you get with what we've done with by creating the bear, 3D modeling, and then from there we went and did some material creation with the subsurface scattering in Vray, and then we started a physics so that we can drop the bears into place. We used some randomizing for the materials, made some different colors, and we ended up with this kind of result. So that's going to conclude this video, guys, and I hope you guys learned something from it and you can take this and use it to your advantage. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more video tutorials at www.renderspaz.com, and we'll catch you guys later. All right.